Knees and toes.
Does shoulders have to do with anything?
Because of what you did to my bold prediction. Yes, I'm taking this too far, but I don't care. We're
The
going.
noise is great for those who are audio only.
What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. As always, I'm PK alongside my co-host, Phil. Episode 387. Before we dive into everything that hopefully, fingers crossed, you just watched on YouTube. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com, and look for time breakdowns in the description of the show. We're going to be talking about the Bills' win over Kansas City, the Sabres like playing in overtime, and 5 more season previews, off-season reviews that were 2 weeks long for our lead up to the NLL season that kicks off. But if you are on YouTube, which I highly recommend, one second. Where's my button? Round of applause for our co-host, Phillian over here, who did that beautiful intro video. So if you're listening on audio, pause it, go to YouTube, Buffalo Sports Collective, watch the intro, beautiful intro. Phil did that in a couple days, and got it done with post, and I worked on getting it a part of the actual video part, and hopefully, as long as everything looks good in post, you're seeing it for the first time ever on in your faces on your screen. It's I thought it was, I think, considering what we had to work with, I think it's flawless. I think everything that you thought and made was exactly what I thought was going to be made. It worked out perfect. But congrats, Phil. It looks good.
Thank you. Yeah, I have standards I should not have for myself when it comes to video editing. My knowledge is pretty basic. I did do it a little bit in college and whatnot, so I mean that's long gone though. All of that knowledge is over a decade old at this point. I'm lucky if I can just cut a couple of videos together. So I like my abilities and my standards for myself are vastly different, but overall, it was pretty good. Yeah, not bad. I think the hardest part was honestly going back and finding clips that I wanted, because we don't often listen to ourselves after it's done. And
I don't remember last time I watched or listened to an episode besides editing, and that's just like, okay, there's a wavelength here, delete it, and go forth. I don't remember the last time I actually listened to an episode. It had to be 4 years ago at this point.
So yeah, it was a lot of going back to old episodes, looking at the name of the episode, and then pretty much I went on YouTube and just hit 5 seconds forward for a long time until I felt like, oh, that was funny, or that worked, and that's what we're looking for. I think yours was pretty much flawless. I do laugh a lot on this show, so mine made sense, but I feel like yours was like when I heard yours and in the middle of one of your rants, I was like, wow, that is exactly what I need for PK's video.
Yeah, between that and the banner raising that failed.
You can't forget
epically.
The banner raising.
Maybe we'll do it again this year. But week in review. We're already 4 minutes in. What did you do this last week?
Yeah, I'll get to it now, because I haven't told you yet, but I did miss the entire Bills game, so my knowledge for that's going to be a little rough. But I did tell you that on Sunday that I did pump out that intro. I did one little edit that you asked for, got it out to you, and then I said, well, now I'm doing home repairs the rest of the day, so don't expect anything. And those home repairs were not supposed to last as long as they did, but that's not how things work. Long story short, did what all home repairs do, and I went to fix a shutoff valve in the basement, and it was a nightmare. Just turned from one simple solution to another simple solution to cutting out the entire pipe and replacing the whole damn thing, and kind of starting over. So that went from, I think, about noon to 7:30 when the game was over. So that went great, but it is replaced. The shutoff valve is no longer leaking, and everything's happy in the basement. So it worked out. but I did miss the game. I was keeping an eye on the score, but I knew if I had it on in the background, I was just going to keep watching it and not actually worried about the leak in the basement that I was dealing with, and it would have taken me 10 times longer. So sadly, I had to stay focused, but yeah, that is pretty much what I was working on.
Yeah, my shutoff valve in the other house was leaking, and it's probably still leaking to this day. Never replaced it, didn't really care, so it's probably still leaking behind that one wall that's there, but yeah.
They'll find out eventually.
They'll yeah, eventually. Maybe when it springs a big leak and floods the whole basement. Not my problem. Lemon Law expires shortly, and I don't think they listen to this show, so I'm clear. Volleyball, played another game of volleyball on Friday, vastly different than the week before. All the subs that they had last week, or 2 weeks ago at this point, were volleyball players. This week, I don't think they were former volleyball players, and the team we faced had a few volleyball players. I got my first block in 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Shut him down on a really good spike, put it right back down in his face, and then had a couple good spikes. Plenty of a few mess-ups that were just like 15 years ago, that would have been different. But
so was the net lower, or you just got your hops?
I still got a little bit of hops. Not many.
All right.
I got to save them up. There's only a few more in my life. But after that, we went to a bar and watched the Blue Jays game. I was telling producer Pat when we were out at the bar yesterday. We went to Audubon on Monday, so that's another thing I did this week. That the bartender was just like constantly giving me beers, like wasn't asking if I needed another. He just noticed that it was empty and just kept filling it up. And the one I was drinking, I'm like, man, this tastes like it's skunked. Like it doesn't taste good, but power through it. And at the end of it, he gives me another one. And he goes, yeah, I'm not going to charge you for that last one. I forgot you were drinking Blue Lights, and I gave you a blue. I was like, I was wondering why it tasted. I never turned the bottle around to see what it was. It was just like a normal blue. And I was like, oh, I hate.
You're like, the colors make sense to what I'm drinking. So
yeah, I was just like, oh, this is just a bad beer. And yeah, it was just because it was a different kind of beer. And then Saturday, me and Mikey P, disc golf tournament way out in Eden. 13th out of 19th place. I think we were one stroke away from being in the top 10. Mike got a CTP closest to the pin. Great shot. I thought we played well, but it was a course that you had to dodge trees like constantly. And there were actually 3 aces in that round. We were part of one. The guy that we were playing with aced it. The first throw of the day, somebody like 2 holes behind us, all you hear is the chains and the cheers. First throw. Like there's an ace pool, so if you get an ace, you win that pool of money. And it was over the first throw of the day. But yeah, that was fun. Long day. I think we were there I think I got to Mike's house around 8:30. Should have been there at 8:15. Misread a text message. And then I think from like 8:30 when I got there, and then I got home at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was a long day, but it was fun. I would definitely go back to that same place, and we'll probably do the tournament next year. But that's what I did this week. The Bills also got a victory, and like Phil mentioned, I'm going to have to carry a bit of a load here. But as the theme continues, I think it's the 4th or 5th straight win Buffalo has over the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season. 28-21. Allen, 23 of 26, 273, 1 and no interceptions with 6-19-2 on the ground, leading me to my cover your ears fantasy victory. I broke a 4-game losing streak. Cook was insane again. First rusher over 100 yards versus the Chiefs in like 2 years or something like that. Kincaid first receiver over 100 yards in I think 11 games. Shakir was 7 for 43. Mahomes was under 50% passing. He didn't look right. They were getting to him. Hunt wasn't all that good. Rice wasn't that effective. Brown was non-existent. I mean, I don't even have the write-up for Worthy on here because they shut him down. I thought overall the offense looked solid. Yes, there were bits and pieces of it where it was like, I mean, the full first half, we tweeted out, who is this team and, where were they all season? And then it kind of sloped down a bit. Kansas City has a good defense. I thought the defensive line for Buffalo was absolutely insane. Yes, you lose Michael Hoyt, and I'll get into that in a second, but they were pressuring Mahomes constantly. They were hitting him constantly. This was the best performance from the defensive line that I've seen all season, but especially versus Patrick Mahomes, regular season or playoffs. I have not seen him get that hit from a Buffalo defense ever. I thought Hairston should be full-time. The way he was able to neutralize the speed of Xavier Worthy, that one pick he had, he was stride for stride with him, and he broke up another pass. I thought he was fantastic. The massive hold on the 1 yard line to hold him to a field goal before halftime. The defense was electric in this game. I thought they were really good. The one negative I'll go over in a second. The big interception, like I mentioned with Hairston, when the Bills needed to get that stop and the turnover, he got it. He needs to be a full-time player. They need to put Trey White to a depth role. He doesn't need to see the field anymore. I'm good with not seeing it. Hairston needs to be a full-time player. I don't care if he's ready or not. He needs to be there. And the last thing, this was Cole Bishop's welcome to the NFL game. I mean, how many pass breakups? He was absolutely insane. The hit that he put on Travis Kelce in the end zone, oh my God, I don't know how Kelce was still breathing. But those were my good factors in this game. I know I'm kind of wrapping it up really quick because you beat Kansas City again. It's going to be more telling into the playoffs when you meet them again. But I will say, this is the first time where I've came away from that game looking at the team going, okay, they're probably not going to be a first-round exit anymore based on the performances we saw. Yes, they didn't make any trades. I do not like that, especially with seeing some of the prices that Shaheed went for and Jacoby Myers and so on and so forth. I would have paid those prices, probably a little bit more. But overall, I am feeling better sitting here today, Tuesday the 4th, than I was a week ago at this same point. I do feel better about this team based on their performance that, hey, they're still the Buffalo Bills. They're still going to get wins. They're sitting 6-2. They're looking good. Are there still holes and still glaring issues that I think is going to hold them back from winning a Super Bowl? 100%. But overall, I think this was the best 60 minutes they've put in this entire season against a very good opponent.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of it is this is the first true game that they've actually played. I think pretty much all season. Yes, we've seen them have wins before, but I mean, this is one of the tougher opponents they've played all year. Obviously, Kansas City needs wins. I mean, 4 losses to them isn't huge, but it's not good. Like, this is a game that Kansas City didn't want to drop as far as the standings go right now. I know, again, not extremely early, but still very early in the season. Early enough that they're on the outside of the playoff bracket looking in, which is just weird for Kansas City. But for that, I mean, it's just the fact that, like, the Chiefs didn't want to lose this game. I know everyone says, like, oh, you can beat them in the regular season. Like, the Chiefs were on a roll. They looked really, really good the last few games. It was like they were back. They were going to be the team to beat in the AFC. And now the Bills in a game where not only did they need it, but they were also looking not very good. They were on the flip side of things, looking bad more than anything. And this is a huge win, I think, for them. And the way they did it, like you said, pressuring Mahomes as much as they did. This is something that the Bills have been not very good at the entire time that they've played the Chiefs. Like, they've gotten some big regular season wins, lost in the playoffs, but a lot of it has come down to they can't get to Mahomes. So to see them be able to get to Mahomes, everything you kind of mentioned, Hairston looked good, Bishop looked really good. I thought Kincaid, I think he's continuing to ramp up what his ability is on this team. And I think if, like you said, they didn't do anything in the trade deadline, which, I don't know, it's frustrating. Just crazy to me to see them sit on their hands and do nothing for a team that, to me, as good as this win is, and I don't want to talk bad about it, like you said, like, are they a Super Bowl team? I don't think so, personally, with what they have on the roster and seeing what other teams were able to do at the trade deadline. And even if it wasn't a wide receiver, like, your defense is so badly banged up right now, and you'll get to the injury in a second, but that Hoyt injury is huge. Like, he looked really, really good in this game, especially the way he was flying around. I thought he was going to be a big addition to the rest of the season for this team, and to lose him and to lose Oliver, like, it's just, I felt like they should have done something at the trade deadline to get some depth, bring somebody in. I mean, I know, like we said before, like, this game aside, the defense didn't look great, and I don't think this is a team that's going to win based on their defense alone. It needs to be the offense scoring a ton of points in the playoffs, but I think it would have been nice to bring in some help for the defense, and I'm just kind of surprised they didn't do anything, but it seems to be Bean's MO to just love the team he has previously built. But the other thing I'll say is James Cook, I mean, I know we already said, like you said, over 100 yards, first time against Kansas City in a long time, but the big thing to me was his 27 carries is number one this season, that they fed him that much, and I think that's something that needs to continue moving forward. I think Allen looked, obviously 23, 26, really, really, really good, but I think a lot of that's, plays off of the run game and finally getting Cook into the game, the whole game, and not just using him, letting him be good, and then, okay, well, you're just going to go take a seat the rest of the time for whatever reason. I just never understood this whole season that they have such a electric running back, and there's so many times they'll just won't use him at all. So to see him get 27 carries was really impressive. And then Shakir, 7 receptions. But to me, the other thing on the offense, like I said before, is Kincaid, can he keep it up? Can he be their kind of missing wide receiver? That's what he's been kind of billed as this whole time, is he's going to be that game-changing offensive talent, and you're seeing it in spurts in certain games. Now, this is the second time he's gone over 100 yards in a single game. Can he continue that, and is this truly the coming out for Kincaid, or are teams going to learn to find a way to eliminate him and force Allen to go somewhere else?
Yeah, talk about the lack of history for Buffalo tight ends. This is only the second time a tight end has gone over 100 yards on the season for a Buffalo Bills tight end. Insane. Yes. But yeah, the Michael Hoyt injury was massive. We only really saw him for 6.5, 7 quarters. Really disappointing. I will admit that I was dead wrong. I hated him in the preseason. I didn't think he was very good in the preseason. And then 1.5 games, he was probably one of the best defensive ends they had to date. And then you already added it with Ed Oliver also missing time. Both of those guys likely done for the season. I mean, Hoyt's definitely done for the season, but Ed Oliver likely done for the season as well. Trey White, I already mentioned, he needs to be back on the bench. Max Hairston and Christian Benford need to be the 2 starting cornerbacks. And then Darren Johnson getting hurt in practice last week, not playing. But I think Pat Moran mentioned it. I thought Cam Lewis played the best nickel cornerback we've seen this season. I don't think we've talked about it enough, and I don't think enough people have talked about it. Taron Johnson kind of just fell off a cliff this year. He has not been the same player. And
Benford as well.
Benford, he has not stepped up. But
players last year were just amazing. Like guys you could count on the entire season. They have both just kind of really taken quite a step backwards for 2 all-star players that you thought you could count on this season.
Yeah, including Bernard as well. That bold prediction blew up in my face all really early. That was
the 3 big defensive players from last year. This year, just really taking a step back.
Yeah, but then the only other one is the field goal miss by Prater at the end of the game that could have just sealed it, put him up to 2 scores. That was a big miss by him. But overall, good game. It does make me feel better about their overall outlook, but it doesn't change my opinion that I still do not believe that this team is going to win the Super Bowl. I still think there are too many flaws on this team, but big win versus a team that's likely going to be in contention for the Super Bowl. I know they're not in a playoff position right now. We're going to get into it, but I do think that this team going into the next game versus Miami, I'm going to expect them to blow the doors off Miami and win by 14, 21 points, something along those lines. You really got to put the nail in the coffin for Miami. But we'll look around the league. Baltimore gets the big win with Lamar Jackson back 28-6 over Miami. Chicago somehow just makes Cincinnati look embarrassing. Last second, Loveland, there were 3 guys around him, and he still breaks it. That end of the game was insane. Chargers win 27-20 over Tennessee. New England comes back off a missed game-winning field goal by Atlanta. New England wins 24-23. Pittsburgh gets the big win over Indy. Denver gets the big win over Houston. And Jaguars barely squeak out a win versus the Brock Bowers-led Raiders, 30-29. Give it to the Raiders, going for the 2-point conversion at the end to try to win it, not end in a tie, because ties are gross. But looking around the standings,
2-5, so why not?
Yeah, Colts, Patriots, Denver all sitting 7-2. Pittsburgh's leading their division in the 4th seed at 5-3. Then it's Buffalo at 6-2, Chargers 6-3, Jags at 5-3, and then just outside of the playoffs are Kansas City at 5-4. But Baltimore still sneaking right there at 3-5. The rest of the teams I don't really mention, but Baltimore with Lamar Jackson back, they look. I know it's versus Miami, but he did look good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, as much as the beginning of the season has been weird, and I don't see the Colts or New England or Denver really like falling flat on their faces. It'll be interesting to see if at the end, when all the dust settles, if Kansas City and Buffalo and Baltimore are still right in it and just kind of pushing their way through playoffs like everybody kind of predicted at the beginning of the season, despite how things have gone for Kansas City and Baltimore to start.
Yeah, so they got Miami, 1 o'clock on Sunday. PK's favorite time to have a game, 1 o'clock. Love it. And then the week after, they got another 1 o'clock game. So happy. So happy we got some stretch of 1 o'clocks. But we'll move on to the Sabres here. Tuesday versus Colorado, 4-3 loss in overtime. Thursday versus Boston, 4-3 loss in overtime. And then Saturday, they do not lose in overtime. They win 4-3 in a shootout. So 1-0-2 in their last 3 games. They're sitting last in the Eastern Conference right now, but they got 13 points. They got a winning record, kind of, with the 3 overtime losses. But overall, the team's entertaining. The team is watchable. And I am enjoying what I'm seeing. I mean, the Thursday game, Lyon, that was his worst start of the entire season. I thought Dahlin in overtime was horrible, and then for some reason Tage pinched up, and then it was a 3-on-1 versus a Jack Quinn-led team in the back. I thought overall they dominated that game versus Boston on Thursday and just got the short end of the stick on it. Dahlin and Tage, I said they needed to pick it up, and then Washington game, they kind of both picked it up very well. It's just that in those overtime games, you need your best players to be the best players, and we haven't gotten that in overtime lately. I personally think they need to get Doan and Benson in the game in overtime. For some reason, they do not get any shifts in overtime. I don't understand why. That's 3 straight bad losses in overtime until that shootout win versus Washington on Saturday. But they're facing Utah right now. It's 0-0 after the first period, but they're competitive. It's the calendar flipped to November. Yes, they're in dead last of the Eastern Conference, but it's so logjam. There's not a team that's like far and away. There's not a team that's trailing off. Like everybody's got 13 points or more in that conference. So I'm not worried about their placement in the standings right now. I am more enjoying that we're actually getting good hockey to watch. This team's entertaining, and now that Kesselring's back, and yes, you lost Kulik to whatever he's going through. It's not an injury. They said it's more like a sickness. So players are dropping for the forward group, but the defensive side of the puck is actually getting healthy. They're enjoyable to watch. That's pretty much. I've been positive. I haven't had a rant on this team since the season started. I guess since their 0-3 start when you weren't a part of the podcast, you were up in Maine. But overall, since that 3-game skid to start the season, I think they've been very entertaining. They've had 1 regulation loss since that opening 3-game skid.
I would say they're 5-1-3 since the first 3 games.
Yeah, they've been good. They've been good.
And that is the big thing. Like, yeah, it's annoying to keep losing in overtime, but getting to overtime is still huge. We saw them miss the playoffs because they couldn't get to overtime the one year. I think it was.
Well, they missed it by
Florida or the Islanders who had just a million overtime.
It was the Islanders. Yeah, they had like 15 loser points.
Yeah. And that's why they made the playoffs over the Sabres. So way too early to talk about playoffs. But at the same time, it is important to get to these overtimes and not just lose in regulation. Yep. And a few of these, they've been down early in the game and been able to stay level-headed and fight their way back, and they're not just giving up when they're down 2-0 and just kind of moving on to the next game. So I do think they're doing some good things. They're doing some bad things with the power play right now. With those 3-game stretch there, they were 1-10, so not great after they were doing a really good job on the power play, and now it seems to have fizzled a little bit again. So we'll see. The penalty kill, though, still one of the best in the entire league, which is, I think they were tied for number 1 in the league. So that's really, really good to see. And overall, like you said, they're fun to watch. And that right now, this early in the year, is what you're looking for. When Benson went on the IR, I was 100% in football mode. And I was like, oh my God, he's gone for so long. And forgot that hockey's IR just doesn't really mean much of anything. I was like, oh, he's going to be back pretty soon. So that was a fun mental flip. I was like, 4 weeks? That stinks. Not how that works. But here we are, kind of mixing both sports.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. Like I said, Utah, and then 2 more games that we'll cover on the next show. But before we dive into our second half of the show segment, we're going over our only sponsor of the episode, Tap That Tap Room at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. It's Buffalo's first woman-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps. They offer a variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
Tap That Tap Room has their usual list of great events, starting with trivia on Wednesday, happy hour on Friday, DJ Night Light on Friday night, and a Bills watch party with a halftime free jersey giveaway. But PK, we have not discussed what goes on in their kitchen in quite a bit. So I decided to pick 3 items from their menu, 2 of which we have enjoyed in the past, and 1 new one. We're going to start and keep it simple, but one of my favorites is the delicious soft pretzel sticks with the dipping sauce, and then you can add the dip trio with wing dip, spinach artichoke dip, and taco dip served with pita and tortilla chips for dipping. And then finally, for the animal lovers out there, there is a Tap That Tap Room is now serving the plant-based chicken fingers, and you can find out what else they have going on in the kitchen or other events when you come on down and check out their Facebook page to find out what's on tap and what's on deck. Head to tapthattaproom.com.
Phil, we got 3 signings to go over for the Buffalo Bandits. Cam Wires was expected a 1-year deal. Nanakoke just signed a 3-year deal after being qualified offered, so we knew he was going to be back. And then the biggest surprise to me, and I think a lot of other fans, is Kyle Matisse is back for another year. We were hoping for his signing and trade for many, many years ago when we first started this podcast, when he was still playing for Philly. But I think getting him back after, what we lost with Chris Kluche and Chase Frazier, instantly before they were able to re-sign and bring back Kyle Buchanan. And when they do lose Chase Frazier, and before the acquisition of Mike Triolo, my first thought was, okay, if you want to keep it in-house, Kyle Matisse, he's played righty forward with Ottawa, that would make sense just to bring him back, and then he's a full-time forward. Now it seems like with the righty forwards pretty much locked up, he's going to go back to the role that he came to Buffalo to play, which is a defense/transition role, and I thought he excelled in it at times. I do think that he is not the same player that we had seen even prior to the injury last year. I think he is on the back end of his career, which makes sense based on his age, but I do think that he adds another veteran presence back there that isn't a rookie in a must-win situation type of role. You know what you're going to get from him. It's not going to be a surprise. There's not going to be any highs or lows. He's going to be a very steady Eddie back there.
Yeah, like you said, I think the big thing with him is the fact that he's versatile depth, something Brandon Beane loves to talk about. But the fact that he can play righty forward. If for some reason Triolo gets injured and Nielsen isn't working out as a rookie, you have that. And to have that as a defender, just playing out the back, and have him as a transition player that you can all of a sudden have as righty forward depth that is also playing a different position. It's kind of like what you and I love in a face-off guy, where he can do face-offs and defense. It's kind of the same thing, but weirdly different, but at the same time good to have a defender. I mean, not to the same level, but it's similar to what Ian McKay did. I mean, he still is an elite all-star defender and transition player, but now he can play offense, and apparently he's really good at that as well. Matisse is kind of in a similar situation where, yes, he's older, but he can play defense, be, like you said, a steady presence on the back end. But if anything were to happen, or you need a couple shifts of him on righty forward, he's there on your team, already ready to go. I think I'm going to be interested to see. I do completely agree with you that he does seem like he's lost a step for sure. But I am interested to see what he looks like, not only healthy, but with a full offseason. I know the offseason's cut short, but an offseason where he's now on the Bandits, just learning their system more, not thrown into the team after a trade. Now that he's had time to play with the team, learn the system through playoffs, and now he gets to start the season with the same team and learn that system a little bit more. I'm interested to see just what he looks like on the Bandits now that he's a part of the team, not just a trade for player.
Yeah, so the last of the players that need deals or that were on the team last year, I should say, are Bryce Sweeting, you got Emerson Clark, and Justin Martin. Those are the last 3 remaining guys that are without a deal that were on the team last year. We'll see. And I know you were kind of talking about it before starting recording. What does the free agency landscape still look like? There's still some bigger name guys out there. If you're looking at the righty forwards, I know we're going to be talking about 5 other teams, so it's not just Buffalo Bandits lacrosse that we're talking about now, especially with the unified standings. We find it like expanded our coverage, kind of talking about all 13 teams now, but centered around the Buffalo Bandits because that's how important talking about the other teams there. So when they come to town, you kind of know. That's why the interview series is there. But when you're looking at the ready forwards, Kevin Crowley's still there. He's not expected to go back to Vancouver. There's been some whispers about Calgary. I think he would fit perfectly in Colorado. Tom Schreiber, the whole situation we talked about last week. Curtis Knight's still sitting out there. Does he go back to Rochester now that they've filled up their forward group? Miles Thompson's still sitting out there. I think if he comes back, it's only going to be Georgia. Seth Oakes, Georgia again. You're looking at the lefty forwards. Casey Jackson, does he go back to Las Vegas now that Chris Cloutier is there? He got Holden Cattoni. He gets released from Vegas. So maybe there is an opening there for a Casey Jackson. Turner Evans is sitting there from Rochester. You go to the transition role, and it's a lot of Georgia players. Joey Capito, Jeremy Thompson. Again, Thompson probably only goes back to Georgia if he does return. Jesse Gamble, does he continue his career? You got Dalton Solver sitting out there. And then you're looking at the defense. David Brock, does he come back or does he hang it up? Another Georgia guy, and John Rannigan. I love John Rannigan. Does he... Maybe there's a spot with Buffalo. I highly doubt it. Liam Burns is still sitting out there from Georgia. John Lintz from Calgary. Tyson Kirkness, he was playing with Vancouver last year. And then the goaltenders. Doesn't sound like Kevin Orleman's going to be back in Rochester because they gave him a see you later, well wishes. Goodleaf's not going back to Georgia. So there are some bigger name players still out there. The big wave of all the big free agency is kind of past, and now it's, okay, how does camp look after the first week, some teams 2 weeks of training camp? Are there holes that need to be filled with the guys that are left over? I mean, the big ones to me are the Kevin Crowleys, the Casey Jacksons, the Holden Cattonis, Joey Capito, and like the John Rannigan. There's still some bigger name players out there.
And the big thing that, like you just said, with camps opening up and things that we won't know probably until closer to week one are the injuries. I mean, a lot of teams just
injuries
don't
and
tell
travel
you.
restrictions and job commitments too. Yeah, things
Right.
that we don't know about.
Right, we could all of a sudden see somebody go on the IR that you didn't expect, you thought was healthy because you didn't know any better, and all of a sudden, somebody else gets picked up because of that. I mean, I know it was a long time ago and we haven't heard anything, and I think he posted on his Instagram like, the boys are back or something, but Josh Byrne left the Man Cup injured with a knee injury, and we have no idea what his timeline is or what he's looking like. Do they rush him back, or do they need to pick up a lefty forward? I think they'd have plenty of options in-house if needed, but that's just an option that if all of a sudden right before week one you see Byrne go to the IR and they have an open spot, do they pick somebody else up to give him a try while he's on the IR? Just things like that throughout the league that we don't know right now that you'll slowly kind of see come together as it gets a little closer.
So we're going to go over 5 teams this episode for the off-season review, which is like 2 weeks long, and the season preview because we're so condensed because of what happened. But we're going to go over Vancouver. We're going over Oshawa. That used to be Albany, now Oshawa. We're going over San Diego, Philly, and Calgary. Those are the next 5 teams that personally I think the majority of their roster moves are completed. And we're starting with everybody's darling of the offseason. Everybody's writing them home to be the champions. And I might be too. Stay tuned in a couple weeks. Vancouver Warriors, last year 11-7, 4th in the league. They lost in the semis in 2 games to Buffalo. They started 3-1, then had a 2-6 stretch in the middle of the season, and then they won the final game, 6 games after Christian Del Bianco. That Christian Del Bianco got off the couch and decided to put on pads again. 10.89 goals for, which was 9th. 9.56 goals against, which was 1st. And you know what they did this offseason. We'll talk about it. 43% on the power play, 52 on the penalty kill. Big losses. I'm already chalking it up. Kevin Crowley's not going back, so he's a big loss. Riley Lowen goes to Calgary. We'll talk about him in a bit. But the big ads, Phil. We kind of went over it a bit on the last show. But Curtis Dixon, Jesse King, Shane Simpson, Reese Callies. Oh boy. We knew Vancouver was going to target the forward group, and I think I talked about this on the last show too. They addressed the forward needs big time. I wasn't expecting them to bring in more reinforcements on the back end of what they were already super good at.
Yeah, this is you know how they say that Josh Allen like has his hands in the GM role a little bit and like kind of picks players that he wants. This is all Christian Del Bianco saying, "Get my boys back, and I want them here, and I need them to play with me." Shane Simpson would be the big one. His Hail Mary buddy, his transition best friend. That's going to be scary. Like you said, Reese Caley's another really strong defender going to that team. Not something that they needed, which is a bummer. But Curtis Dixon and Jesse King are definitely the two big offseason acquisitions. Obviously,
Who saw this coming?
Yeah, nobody. It's definitely scary. Their team absolutely needed some offensive help. They were struggling, and I mean, you could see it in the game 2 in the playoffs with the Bandits. That once they focused in on Keegan Ball and were able to shut him down, that team did not know what to do or how to counteract that. Now they have a few different options to go to, and they're not only just options, they are really, really good options. So this team made some monster moves in the offseason, and they, like you said, they are pretty much the darling of the NL. I think the big thing to me right now with them being the darling is unless you're in Buffalo, I assume you hate Buffalo. You hate the Bandits for going to 5 straight and winning 3 straight. I'm sure it's very Patriots, Kansas City. You hate it. You're over it. You're sick of it. So anybody, I mean, obviously people want their team to win. All NLL fans out there want their team to win. But I think it's one of those things where like who else can realistically take down the big bad Bandits? And I think everyone's kind of looking at Vancouver to be like, hey, can you do us a favor and please get rid of this team once and for all. And so I think that's kind of why they are the NLL's darling. They are the hero that the league needs to get rid of Buffalo. And they're doing a pretty good job this offseason of making it look scary.
So Owen Grant is pretty much the last known player that still needs a deal out in Vancouver. He's going to get his deal. Obviously, he's a future transitioner, defender of the year, whatever.
They're probably picking if he wants 4, 5, 6, 7, or 10 years.
Yeah, it's insane. But we'll look at the forwards now. What used to be, I mean, we like to joke on the show last year that they added Christian Del Bianco and the offense magically got fixed. And that was partly a joke, but it partly wasn't. And they addressed their needs. We kind of already talked about. But the right side, now along with Keegan Ball and Marcus Claridge in another season of experience playing the forward group, you add a Curtis Dixon to this. You add the Ryan Sheridan that you got from this dispersal draft that didn't play a single game last year for this team, former 5th overall pick in 2023. Then you add Mick Kelly, the 2025 19th overall pick. You got a couple more depth players on the right-hand side, but then you look at the lefties right now. It's led by Jesse King. Then you got Adam Shedlambides behind him. Then you got a Ryan Martell who's going to be shifted from a number 2 option there to the number 3, which I think he's going to excel better at. And then Peyton Cormier. He's going to be able to work in, former 4th overall pick. So you got the depth on the forward group. If one player goes down, there's another guy to step in that they didn't have last year. If Keegan Ball didn't play last year, which I believe he played all 18 games, if he missed any time, this offense was done. Like, there was no way. Now you shift Adam Shedlambides to a more depth role where I think he's going to excel. You got the Jesse King and the Curtis Dixon and the Keegan Ball to take that lead. This offense, paired with the defense that we're going to go over in a second, they're going to be, this is, and everybody that's talking up this team, yeah, you're doing it for a good reason. Coached by Kurt Malowski, this team is a legit threat to win not just one championship this year, but they could go on a good run here and create their own sort of dynasty with this team.
Yeah, so be careful what you wish for with them taking the Bands down, because they could start their own run. But I do think the big thing is exactly what you mentioned. I was going to mention about Shedlambides is, once again, I mean, just recency bias, but in the playoffs, he kind of fizzled and he wasn't able to step up. And I think a big part of that is he's not that player, and it's nothing. He had 84 points. He's not a bad player, but he's not a true number 1 on that side. And like you said, bringing in Jesse King knocks him down to the 2, Martell down to the 3, and those are where they will exceed because they're not being as focused on, but he'll still be really good.
He's going to get the second best defender on that side rather than the first.
So I think in those roles, I think that offense will work that much better, having kind of these really good players shifted down a little bit. And same with the other side. I mean, if teams can't focus in on Keegan Ball because there's a Dixon over there, that's going to open it up even more for Keegan Ball, who's already incredible. So, I mean, to have him get another big weapon on that side so they can't just key in on him, that's going to be a nightmare matchup for teams.
Yeah, so then you're looking at the defense. They were able to bring back Ryan Dilks, shocker. Mitski, shocker. Then you add in the Shane Simpsons in the transition game that I think they were lacking a bit. You got Reed Bowering there. You add the Reese Callies. You have a Remo Shinato, who was the former 6th-round pick 2 drafts ago. This defense is absolutely stacked, and they just got better. And now you get a full season of Christian Del Bianco. This team is littered with talent. I am actually excited that Buffalo, as a content creator and a guy that covers this team, seeing 2 great teams face each other twice in an 18-game schedule, and maybe some in the playoffs, I'm excited to see these 2 teams face each other twice, because if Buffalo's the bar, I think Vancouver's at that bar right now. Like, last year, I think it was Buffalo and Saskatchewan, and then just below that was Vancouver. Now with a full season of Christian Del Bianco, with the defense back and added more pieces, and then you fix the forward group, they're in that tier now by far. It's 3 in that tier right now. I know a bunch of people aren't talking about Saskatchewan. We talked about them last week. They're still in tier number 1. Vancouver added to that party this offseason, and it's filthy. It's filthy.
Yeah, and Stathakis, really good rookie faceoff guy last year, has another year to learn and adapt, and I think he'll be solid for them moving forward. But they're going to be a good team to watch. And like you just mentioned with the schedule, I know the Bandits kind of jokingly / seriously complained a little bit that they had to face so many of the top teams twice. But at the same time, to me, I mean, the same thing with the Bills. Like, their schedule is so easy that you beat up on these bad teams, even though the Bills haven't been able to do that. But if you're the Bandits and you go whatever it is, you have a really, really good record, and you beat up on all these bad teams, it doesn't help your team grow on your way to the playoffs. You don't know what this team actually is, because you're not facing top talent. Being forced to play all of these really good teams will continually see throughout the season how you match up with the people and the teams that you're likely to see in the playoffs. So to have that throughout the year, yes, it's going to be harder to get wins, but at the same time, you can say, okay, we had a bad game 1 against Vancouver. This is why. Let's get that fixed. And then game 2, okay, we beat them. What did we do well? What did they do worse? And you can just kind of continue to grow throughout the season.
Yeah, so the questions that I have for this team, and it's more like I think, how did I preference it last week? It's kind of what I'm seeing in this team and kind of asking the questions, okay, what is this team?
Rhetorical.
Yeah, thank you. That's the perfect word I was looking for. I got 2 questions for him. How does the offense gel? It should gel pretty well, but Keegan Bell's never really played with these guys in the NLL. Marcus Claridge, how does he add to this one? Adam Charlie Bees, how do they gel with the 2 new acquisitions to this? And then, can they live up to the hype? There are some teams that going into the season, it's all, the attention is fully on them. They're the new favorite. They're the new darling. Think Philly 2 years ago when everybody was hyping them up to make the playoffs except you and me, and we're like, we don't see it, they're missing playoffs, and they miss playoffs. Can they live up to that hype? I think they do, but they're a favorite for a reason. So those are my 2 questions for this. I know we spent a little bit too much time talking about them. We've got like 10, 15 minutes left in the episode that we're trying to get. We got 4 more teams to go, but they were the number 1 team. They did the most this offseason, so we really hammered them home. So next team is Oshawa Black Bears. Tisk, tisk, tisk. You're part of the intro now, Oshawa / oh, no.
Oshawa.
Why do I have it Oshawa Black Bears? It's Oshawa Firewolves. Duh.
Firewolves,
I'm an idiot.
yes.
Why did I say Black Bears?
Oshawa.
Yeah, it's the beginning already. Oshawa and Ottawa. Good luck. I think multiple people have already wished good luck to the announcers. Good luck when Triolo's in the lineup between him and Priolo. Godspeed, boys. And ladies, Godspeed.
I'm excited to see Oshawa and Ottawa play each other.
Yeah, that's going to be a nightmare. I've already messed it up. Firewolves, thank you. Yes. Last year, 7-11, 11th in the league after making it to the finals the year before. They started 1-5, 2-8, and then finished 5-3. 10.67 goals for, which was 11th in the league. 11.61, which is tied for 6th. You're going to hear that number a lot on this episode. 46% of the power play, 55% on the penalty kill. The biggest loss was Eric Fennell, and the biggest adds were Taggart Clark and Kyle Rubisch. They did a very good job of keeping their own and adding to it. I mean, the only players that really need deals left are John Wagner, who is on a qualifying offer, and then John Piatelli. That's pretty much it. They brought everybody back. You're looking at the forward group. I mean, for the righties, they're running it back, and you get a full season Jonathan Peshko. So you got Ty Kurtz, you got Peshko, and you got Simmons, maybe Piatelli if he comes back. On the lefties, you got the Ethan Walker. You got the Dyson Williams from the holdover. You bring in a Kyle Jackson mid-season. You add in Taggart Clark. This offseason, this forward group is going to be. I don't think they're going to be the top scoring team. I don't think they're going to be the model. I think they're going to be more geared towards the top than anything. I don't think they're going to be super flashy. I don't think you're going to be expecting 18, 19, 20 goal explosions, but I think they're constantly going to get you between 11 and 14 goals. And if you could do that behind this defense and Doug Jamieson and net, I think you're going to win quite a few games in this league this season.
Yeah, I like them adding Taggart Clark.
Yep.
He's a bigger bodied forward. I think that's something that this team needs. I know Dyson Williams is also a bigger guy, but yeah, I think he's someone that they have a lot of small forwards.
Yeah.
I think they just could use some size on their offensive group. The big thing for their offense is we saw it 2 years ago that they were brand new, flashy, and nobody knew how to keep up with them. Year 2, you see that everybody kind of counteracted what they did, saw the tape, figured them out, and they weren't nearly as good. So how do they counteract what other teams have already counteracted? So we'll see what kind of changes they made in the offseason to the offense. Do they stay status quo and say, we have the talent and hopefully it'll keep up and work out? Or do they make some changes to their offensive system and try to, again, just kind of counteract what teams have adjusted to them on defense? And Kyle Rubisch is a massive addition to that defense. Their defense had struggled at times, especially with a lot of injuries, but I think he's just a really, really solid player. So to add that kind of veteran presence to a younger defense, I think is massive.
Yeah, and they didn't have very many early picks. Jackson Fridge was their first pick, 36 overall. I think he was the steal of the draft. I can't believe he fell that far. Sorry. I can't believe he fell that far down the draft. I think he's going to be a massive addition to that team. This team, in my opinion, would have been a playoff team had their entire defensive core didn't miss half the season. I mean, John Wagner played, 2 games? You had Nishimura. Sorry, I'm choking over here. You had Nishimura miss, I think, like 13 games. You had
Wagner played 3, yeah.
Watkinson missed some games. You had Chikowski miss some games. If they can get all these guys back and play the majority of the season in front of Doug Jamieson, this team's going to be a playoff team, and I think they could secretly be one of the top 4 teams making the playoffs and getting a home first-round playoff bid for their first year in Oshawa.
Agree, and I will let you move on if you're done.
Sorry, I was dying. But my questions for this team is really just the health of the back end. Wagner, Chikowski, Nishimura, and Rubisch. Even Rubisch missed games in San Diego last year. If that back end can stay healthy, if they can, I'm feeling really good. The left side, with Jackson and Clark in a full season, how does that look? Because the only holdovers really for the full season were Dyson going into year 2 and Ethan Walker, who I'm very high on. I think he's super underrated, not just on that team, but in the league in general. But what does that left side look like? You know what the right side's going to give you. What can the left side give you with a full season of Kyle Jackson, who can pump in the goals, and Taggart Clark, who can open the lanes for those guys? So I'm very interested to see what the left side of that offense looks like.
Yeah, I think also Dyson Williams, obviously, going into his sophomore season, what does that look like, and how does he advance his game into year 2? So, like you said, I think this team could be sneaky good, especially having the down year they had. They're no longer kind of looked at as one of those finals teams. Like, we don't have them in the top tier of the league, so they could be a team that quietly performs really well and, like you said, just kind of sneaks into the top half of the league.
So we'll move on. San Diego Seals, 9-9, 8th in the league, lost in round 1, 5-4 versus Buffalo. Really,
Scary.
5-3. They had a 3-5 start. Then they went 5-1 in the middle of the season, 1-3 in the final 4. They had that big win to actually sneak into the playoffs that final week of the season. 11.95 goals for, which was fifth. And I told you would hear this number again, 11.61, tied for sixth in goals against. 41% on the power play and penalty kill. Major losses, though. This team went through another big shakeup. Kyle Rubisch, he goes to Oshawa. We just talked about him. Rob Hellier gets traded to Ottawa, the real Ottawa Black Bears. Ryan Benesch leaves and goes to Buffalo. You got Jesse Gamble, who sounds like he's retiring. Cam Holding officially did retire, along with Mike Poulin. But they did bring in some big ads. Corey Small, he comes over for the lefty forwards. Connor Robinson, we didn't really talk about that deal, but we did talk about Colorado last week, and we said one of those lefties has to get traded. It was Connor Robinson. He goes to San Diego. So they fixed the major issue that they had last year where they had literally no lefties. You had Zach Currier playing full-time over there. They bring Zach Currier back on the franchise tag. There are some players that still need deals in Matthew Wright, but he's not going anywhere. Who knows about the Austin stats situation? We're not even going to discuss that because that's been talked to death on other podcasts. And then Ty Thompson is also a UFA. But you're looking at the forward group here. The lefties, it's three guys now with the righties, with Rob Hellier out the door. Westberg is still there. He should be an MVP candidate. You got Trey Leclerc, hopefully a full season from him. The offense looked completely different when he was back in the lineup. And then Ben McIntosh. Is he the same Ben McIntosh he was a few years ago? No, but he's good as the third fiddle out there. Now, who steps up for the other righties? Is it one of the Kavanaghs? You got Chris, who was just drafted 25th. Pat came in last year, I should say. Marquise White, who they traded for from Buffalo. They're high on him. But then you look at the lefties. You got Connor Robinson and Corey Small. You get Dylan Watson midway through the season from Vegas last year. You got a couple other guys that were holdovers from Jake Govett and Adam Noakes, who are pretty much the leading lefties besides Ryan Benesch last year. So they do have more depth with the lefties here. This, I will say it flat out before we can go into the defense and the goaltending right now. San Diego, I am not as high as I am on them as I was prior years. I would not be completely shocked if they were fighting for one of the last spots again. And again, I had them, I think, finishing first or second last year in the playoffs, or going into the playoffs, I should say. I would be shocked if I had them in my top six with my bold predictions for the standings. I got a weird feeling this team is not going to be as good as they've been in prior seasons.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to pull it up real quick. They were one of the goals for, they did okay last year. I thought they were one of the lower scoring teams last year in general, but they were actually
fifth.
Yeah, not bad. But yeah, I don't know. Like they were a weird team last year because, like everybody said, they were the best eighth seed, that you could possibly ask for. But at the same time, they had issues, and you just lost pretty much your whole offense. I know Berg is still really, really good, but as much as I really like Berg. Like you said, MVP candidate, very, very clutch goals. But can he carry an entire offense? I don't know if he's that style player. He's obviously very clutch and extremely good, but I don't know if he's someone who can say, hop on my back, let's go. I know he had games like that, but I don't know if he can consistently be night in and night out that true alpha player. I don't know if he needs someone on the other side to be a counteractive balance with him, and I don't think he has that this year right now, looking at this team. Yes, they added Small, who's been a little bit shaky toward the end here. And then Robinson, who was a very good player last year. And maybe Robinson can be that guy being stepped into a different kind of role on this team. Maybe he can be that 1B on the left side to a Westberg, and maybe they can balance each other out really well. But this offense worries me for sure. The defense, while good, had some interesting issues, and then obviously Origlieri, he was up and down last year, but he's still really, really good. But you have a note on him that I'll let you get to with the defense.
Yeah, I mean, the defense is very young. I mean, you got the Baptiste, you got the Barclay, you got the Bradley, the Courier, so you have the big names, and Gobrick, you got the big names, but there's so many young players on this defensive core. I don't know how they're all going to make the team. Accioni, former 39th overall pick last year. You got Burkhoff, who comes over from Ottawa, 24th overall pick in 2024. You got Zach Deacon, 8th overall pick in 2022. DeChico's still back there, 9th overall pick last year. You got Jacob Power, who didn't even play last year, 12th overall pick. Ari Steinhaus, 18th overall pick this year. Turpin, 14th overall pick in 2024. See a common theme here? They're so young on the back end, but they already have so many vets. This, to me, seems like a team that needs to trade from their strength, which is their back end. To me, I mean, based on strength by like potential. That's what I more mean. They have so many young players and so many vets back there. I don't know how all these players are going to make the team, and if they don't, they're at risk of losing it. So I do see that there's this. This is ripe for them trading from defense to add to the forward group. And yes, they just traded one of their forwards in Rob Hellier. It sounds like he wanted to go more back East Coast. But then you're looking at the goalie situation right now. And to me, it was very confusing why one of the main pieces coming over from Rob Hellier was Cam Dunkerley. And then I believe it was Dawson Nielsen that broke the news that Chris Origlieri is not at training camp right now because he is going through firefighter school. Now, if you've missed it with Eli McLaughlin, he missed a ton of time. Orig, it sounds like he's going to be back in time for the start of the season, but it also sounds like there's going to be time that he's going to be missing. Cam Dunkerley, I think, is a very good replacement for him, but he is not Orig. I mean, Dunkerley was one of those pieces that I was mentioning if Matt Vince didn't come back to be with Steve Orleman, and the best one would start, and the one that lost the battle would be the backup. I think he's very good. I think he's going to be better with a better defense in front of him that he didn't have in Ottawa/New York. But he's not Orig. And if Orig is missing any amount of time because of firefighter school, that's a big reason why I'm dropping San Diego so far down in where I think they're going to finish.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing with this team is for so long they've been a very big competitor with all these veteran guys on the team. They've been a very, what did we get yelled at last year for their offense being too old, essentially?
Yeah, this is in 2016. Yeah.
Right. And so, like, that's been the big thing with this team is that they've been older, but they've always been pushing for the finals, pushing for a title. Now it seems like they're slowly starting to turn that roster over and kind of flip it to the future. And because of that, you've seen the offense take a hit. And like you just said, the defense is extremely young. Are they going to move any of that out? And I was only laughing about firefighter school because I feel like half the league at this point is
somebody was asking what the percentage of
it's gotta be
players
so
are that are firefighters. It's ridiculous.
It's so high.
I mean, it makes sense. You got to be a little crazy to be a firefighter, and you got to be a little crazy to stand in front of like a rubber bullet going to your chests. But yeah, it's insane. My questions for this one is, who is the fourth righty forward? You need one out there. Who's going to step up and be it? The young defense. I already went over all the names. There's going to be an odd man out. There are probably going to be a couple odd men out. San Diego, who's going to be the odd man out and who is going to be on the trading block? And then you're going to need a better start from Orig. If this team wants to make noise in the playoffs, they need to get out a hot start before Orig starts missing time. That's pretty much the three questions I got for this team. But again, as the offseason goes on and as other teams are making moves and I'm studying more film and all that kind of stuff, I'm dropping San Diego like a ton of bricks, man. They might, I don't know. Well, I'm not going to give any spoilers for the upcoming episodes coming up, but I'm not a fan of them this year. And I dropped Toronto a little bit last year, and you saw what happened to them. Maybe I'm a curse, Phil. Maybe I'm a curse.
I mean, we dropped Halifax, and they did great.
That's true. There could be an opposite effect there. We're going to go flying through these next two teams because, in my opinion, they're going to finish towards the bottom of the standings this year. And number one is Philly. And yes, sorry, ever since you got out to that hot glazing start last year, it's kind of all fell out. Last year, 7-11, 12th in the league, 5-1 start. They got to 6-3 at one point, and then they lost 8 straight. 11.5 goals for, which was 8th. 12.83 goals against, which was 13th. 49% both power play and penalty kill, but the losses stacked up. Mitch Jones, out the door. Shane Simpson, out the door. Tony Malcolm, out the door. Maybe Mitch Desnew. It sounds like Philly's winning that case, but who knows? Still out there. You added Eric Fennell. That was pretty much it. But you were able to bring back Phil Caputo, which we predicted. Chris Corbeil. Joe Reseteris was a big get back. Like, if you lose him too, I don't know how you're scoring any goals. Ryan Wagner comes back. Liam Patton comes back. Dalton Young comes back. The only player that still needs a deal is Michael Sowers. But you're looking at the forward group right now. I don't know. They might not average 10 goals a game. Phil Caputo, Stan LeClaire, Joe Reseteris, Dalton Young are your righties. The lefties, it's Eric Fennell, it's Brendan O'Neill, it's Blaze Reardon. Who knows what else you got? I don't. If this is the last season of Philly, they're not doing their fans right. I don't know what's going on in Philly. I don't like them, Phil. Like, I haven't liked them the last 3 years, and they've just continued to get worse over the years. I loved the move to add Chris Corbeil and Mitch Desnew. They were going for it. I mean, you had that hot start, but then you lose the 8 straight. Like, it backfired, but you went for it. Now it's just like, I don't know what this team's identity is. Like, there's no identity for this team right now. Yes, it seems like we're going over the defense really quick, where you add a Bo Columbus who's coming in 15th overall. You add a Mike, or you have Mike McConnell there. When does Scott Dominy come back? Because their whole season fell apart when he got injured. It's insane how one player's injury just crumples everything. But I don't know what this team's identity is. I don't think they know what this team's identity is. I don't know what direction they're trying to go in. It seems like it's a ship without a captain or a steering wheel. They're kind of just drifting off the sea, and I don't know what's next for them.
Yeah, it's like you said, more than anything, it's sad. It honestly seems like they've kind of given up with all of the ownership issues and whatever is going on. If they move, if they change owners, all that kind of nonsense that's behind the scenes.
Maybe because the rumor is, and it sounds like it's pretty legit, that Joe Tsai is funding this team. Maybe they had an inside hard cap that they weren't allowed to spend a certain amount of monies because it's not their money. Right. And it's just like, we're surviving this year. Like, that's as far as I can get you.
And like you said, like that's the sad part about it. Like,
this
team, everything you said makes it seem like this team doesn't have an ownership.
Yeah, they clearly don't.
They're out there to roster a team, and that's about it. Like you said, the biggest thing of why it's sad is these Philly fans deserve more from a team that's been there for a really long time and it's just been not great the last few years. You brought in a really exciting Brendan O'Neill in 2024, first overall. That was very exciting, but you're asking him to lead the left side by himself in his second year as a player who's an outdoor player trying to learn indoor. He had a good rookie season, not saying he didn't, but that's a lot to ask of him. And then even Joe Reseteris, it's like, yes, he's still going to have a really, really great season, and he's an incredible player, but without Mitch Jones on the other side, the team's focusing all of their attention on...
They can do what a lot of teams did to Vancouver, just shadow him.
Exactly. I mean, if you can shut down Reseteris, and again, this isn't a shot at O'Neill, but I don't think he's ready to take over and be that good of a player. He's not going to be a Mitch Jones this season. So if you don't have that on your left side to balance out your Joe Reseteris on your right side, I think everyone's just going to shadow Joe really, really hard, and this team could very quickly fall apart, which, again, is just more than anything, it's just sad. And it just seems like it is a team that doesn't have an ownership group is just kind of what it feels like this year. Yeah.
So my questions are, when does Scott Dominy come back? Because it seems like the whole team runs through him. Lefty scores besides O'Neill. Like, Blaze Reardon, he's never been a big time scorer.
I do like Blaze Reardon, but
I do. He has his role. He fits it perfectly. He's not a goal scoring guy.
Right.
Eric Fennell's not that as well. So I don't know where these goals are going to come from the lefties. Who steps up? And then, is the defense going to be any better instead of Nick Demood? I mean, he had so many shots on him. It doesn't sound like Deacon Knott's going to be back there this year. It sounds like maybe Will White's going to be the backup there. It's just I don't know what else to say about this team. It's just Zach Higgins got peppered with shots the year before. Nick Demood, I'm afraid that Nick Demood's going to face 900 shots. It's going to get ugly in Philly real quick, and
he's afraid of the same thing.
I would be shocked if they win more than 5 games. Like I would honestly be shocked. But another team that is going to be towards the bottom, Calgary Roughnecks. Last year, 10-8, 6th in the league, lost in the first round versus Halifax. They were 7-8 with 3 games to go, but ran off 3 straight to get into the playoffs. They were 4th in the league in scoring, 12.17, tied for 6th. I told you would hear this number again, 11.61. in goals against, 54 on the power play, 63 on the penalty kill, but they lost everybody. Curtis Dixon, Jesse King, Reese Callies, Nick Rose, out the door. They add in Riley Lowen. Yes, there's rumors of Holden Catoni and Kevin Crowley, but none of those are substantiated yet. Those are still just rumors out there. They were able to bring back Tyler Pace because they're like, Christian's not here anymore. You get the franchise tag now. And is he going to be taking that spot on the couch, or does he decide to play? I mean, John Lintz is really the only player without a deal right now, but you look at the forwards with the righties. Hayden Dixon's going to be asked to step up in a big-time role. Gauthier is going to have to step up. Noah Manning's coming in as the 9th overall pick. He's going to have to step up. Tyler Pace, if he's out, I don't know where the scoring is going to come from the righties. For the lefties, though, Tanner Cook. I am going to be so high on Tanner Cook. I would not be shocked if he's a 100-point scorer for this team because they're not going to have anybody else. Riley Lowen's coming in, but he's the veteran presence. He's going to do his role and do it to a T. But you're going to need Braden Maya to step up. He needs to step up into a bigger role. 5th overall pick 2 drafts ago. If he can step up into a bigger role, you have a bit more scoring. I am higher on Calgary than I am Philly because it seems like Calgary has a plan and they're moving towards the youth movement. Philly didn't do that. I know we're not talking about Philly anymore, but I am higher on Calgary this season and into the future than I am with Philly, and I think that's going to show with all the players that are going to have the opportunity to take bigger reins and run with it.
Yeah, Calgary was a shock to us last year as far as making the playoffs. Their offense was really, really good.
We couldn't understand what they were doing. They were bringing in veterans but trading out their star players. It made no sense.
Yeah, and so I think they had the writing on the wall that this is the year that it makes sense of what they're doing, that now those star veterans are gone. And I think, again, they just kind of something that they knew was going to eventually take place and happen, that it needs to be a flip over in Calgary. And it looks like they are moving, like you said, in the right direction. They are rebuilding. They're out with the old and with the new. And I think they, like you said, even if they're not a top team this year by any means, I think they're headed in the right direction and they have a direction, which is the big thing for a team like this. Like if you're going to be toward the bottom, you need to be mixing in a lot more youth. You need to be flipping your roster over and fighting for a couple, 2-3 years down the line, be that team that is up and coming. Again, I know it's a recent example, but you just look at Albany. Everyone thought they were a joke. They were last place. They were terrible. Flipped their entire roster, traded everybody away, and now they're one of the better teams in the league. I know they struggled last year, but they made it to the finals. I mean, not many teams can say that. So I think more teams need to look at that as an example of just kind of how to move forward. And obviously, you don't want to give up everything. You still need veterans to play with your young guys. You can't just have a young team and that's it. But I think Calgary is doing the right thing to move their team forward without a Curtis Dixon, without a Jesse King, and kind of moving on from those players. Not that they had much of a choice, but I think they knew at some point that was going to be kind of the case.
Yeah, you're looking at the defensive core, and they're building it from the back end out. Jack Follows, 10th overall pick 2 drafts ago. You got Tyler Hendricks comes over from Toronto. Justin Ignacio, former 10th overall pick. I thought he played fantastic last year, and I would like to see him take more defensive responsibilities. This year, Braden Lady comes over from Vancouver in the Christian Delbianco trade. You got Kyle Pepper, who comes over in the 11th overall pick. Bennett Smith, 3 drafts ago, 11th overall pick. Hopefully he's healthy for a full season. Matt Sykes comes over from San Diego. Jordan Vincent, 29th overall pick. And then you still got the veteran pieces in Harrison Matsuoka and Eli Salama. So I think their defensive core is actually going to be better than it was last year, which is saying a lot because, I mean, I guess not saying much because I didn't think their defensive core was very good last year. But it's going to come down to in net Aiden Walsh. And how does he perform versus with a defense? And that's one of my questions. How does he look behind a defense that isn't Vancouver's? Like if he can step up and be one of those fantastic goaltenders of the future, the studs that I think he can be, I think Calgary can make some noise, and I think they can be a bit of a spoiler. I'm not predicting them to make the playoffs, but I do think they can be a tough out versus team. How does this defense adjust with all the young guys? And then if Pace is sitting out, who steps up? Because you're going to be missing Dane Doby, Curtis Dixon, Jesse King, and then Tyler Pace. You're going to be missing your 4 top scorers from last year. It's going to be Tanner Cook, Hayden Dixon, and good luck. So those are my 3 questions for what Calgary looks like.
Yeah, we'll just kind of see where they're at. Again, probably a bottom team, but hopefully building it correctly. And I think Tyler Pace is obviously huge. Him in goaltending. But I think Walsh is so young that even if he struggles a little bit, as long as you see promise this year and see that he could be a future goaltender, I think he's got more of a leash. I think if Pace sits out, you're in trouble.
Yeah, agreed. But next week, we're going to close it out with Georgia, Las Vegas, who is everybody's darling, besides Vancouver, I should say. The real Ottawa Black Bears, Rochester, and Toronto to close out the series. And then we'll talk about the Buffalo Bandits following that. But we got 5 more teams. Phil, another longer episode, but we were kind of expecting that. Anything else with this episode before we shut it down for another long week of actually some preseason lacrosse? And I believe some of the games are going to be on NLL Plus, which I'm very excited about.
I do like that. No. Yay, preseason lacrosse.
So that concludes this one. We'll go over Bills versus Miami on the next episode, those 5 teams, and then we'll see what the Sabres are doing. They are still 0-0 after 2 versus Utah. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky, Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. If you haven't, go to YouTube, watch that new intro performed and made by Phil, our co-host himself. Until next time, bye-bye.